So when fittings to a box gutter, most of the kits you'll find that the standard width's 250, 500 work, but with a box gutter and a Klip-Lok roof, it's really important that we get the width correct. The perfect setup would be just to get a string line and just mark either end at a point where you think is right. But generally I'd get some sort of indication by putting on a trim flat to the roof and then just marking at that point where we want this mesh to sit flat across this roof. That might be slightly low because you've got a little bit of an angle here, a 2 to 3 degree angle, and because of that, that might be slightly low. But what I'd probably do, the easiest way to come up with an even line across here for me would be to find out how low that is compared to the top of the capping, whether it's 5 mil, 20 mil, 500 mil, it doesn't really matter. And I'm looking at about 50 mil there. So what I'm thinking is I probably want to be at a little bit above that, so 45. I'll add the trim, which is an extra 25. So I'm thinking somewhere like 20 mil down from the top would be my mark for the top of my trim. So I'm thinking that point there, in point 1 and in point 2, will give me a straight line to line up my mesh for starters, and then I can run the trims straight along that edge as well. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get the mesh pinned to the box gutter. Generally, one each end is enough, probably every 4 metres if it's longer than 4 metres. Let's roll this out, let's pin it to one end and roll it out, and then we'll cut it to size. And my marks, working on my marks that I've got on the inside of the gutter here, what I want to do is I've got to get a first pinning point. I want the mesh to be just under that line, and that will give me a starting point. And then I can work as I go further down, but I'll get a starting point with that just under that line there. I'm going to remove this screw here, which is our pinning screw. I'm going to replace that screw now, firstly with silicone, in case I miss the hole with my replacement screw. If you can't use the same hole, you definitely have to fill it with silicone. If you're going to remove any screw, you usually need to silicone that area. And then when we over trim it, and we try and go in the same hole, but if we don't go in the same hole, the original hole will be sealed. We will then use a screw with a neoprene washer. Now as we go, we line them back up with the markings that we had on the gutter previously. Start off our next trim. We use the pilot hole. Each trim is 103 centimetres long, so just go over the edge again of the mesh. So we're covering the top of the mesh. So now our next stage is that we need to make all the cuts on the whole run so that we can make sure the whole thing sits flat. You would cut either side of the top of the rib. So you cut 2 cuts all the way down the top of the rib to around about 70 mil. You need about 30 mil, and then once you get to about 70 mil or 30 millimetre from the edge of the roof, you then fan off. And the reason why you do that, you do a lot of vermin proofing, bird proofing, and also for ember proofing. It will cover the end of the rib. We'll just go through and continue to cut all them. Now we're going to slide it into its position where it'll all sit flat with the pan of the roof. Run down our first one and show you how easy this is to fit. you're best off doing is getting the screw through the screw hole and through the mesh. So if you can line up the screw hole with just catching the mesh, this will just help strengthen tag that we run over the top. As you can see, lining it up, just catching the edge of it. I normally just snap them into place with a rounded edge at the front, square edge to the back. As you can see, that's starting to hold this down already. Screw it off. Done. Same the whole way along. Now is going to give you this perfect seal, the best Klip-Lok fitting system, gutter screening system with the perfect clip to suit this Klip-Lok roof.